Hey there, I'm Mark Maya, and this is my journey to becoming a comic book writer. Right now, just to give you a heads up of how this is going to work, I'm going to put out a series of videos that cover everything I've learned in this process of trying to be a writer getting into comic books, because it's not easy, but a lot of the work is on you, on us writers that want to do this. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because as a writer, when I went to Google or YouTube, answers that I wanted, being like, how do I get into comic books? It was always, I'm a writer and an artist. This is what I've done. I'm an artist. This is what I've done. If you're a comic book artist, there's so much information on the internet that you can find, even if you're looking for writer information, because that's mostly what I found. So I'm putting together these videos to, I guess, fill a void that I didn't really see. Like maybe there's videos out there to help writers, but they didn't answer the questions I had, or I just couldn't find them. Maybe I'm just a terrible Googler. Regardless, if those videos do exist, this is another one. And I'm coming at it from strictly a writer. I'm not going to do any of my illustrations. So a writer wanting to get into comic books. So this is for you people out there who are writers and not artists, or who are not the right kind of artist, which is my situation. I'm an artist, but sequential art, the art used to tell stories in comic books, is not my forte. I might be able to do a cover, but when it comes to sequential art, it would take me forever. It would take me a year to do a book, and it would be totally overproduced and unnecessary. It's not my thing. It's not my thing. So, coming at it as just a writer. So, here we go. Now, in this first video, I just want to tell you a bit about myself, where I'm coming from, and where I'm going. And full disclosure, I've never actually put out a comic book yet. This is my first one, so you're following me along my journey. And I'm gonna make some mistakes. I'm gonna hit some pitfalls, and I'm gonna mess things up. Or maybe I won't. Maybe it'll be smooth sailing. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. But regardless, I don't know what's gonna happen. But I can tell you what I do know and what I have learned, and I believe these lessons are valuable, and I think you can use them. So, now, again, I said I've never done a comic book, but technically, I was part of this. This is a Toronto Comics Volume 2. Now, I wrote a story back here called, I don't remember what it's called, We Still Got It. So, that's it. Now, the art is done by Jamie Reel. I've worked with him for years, not as a comic book artist. We worked in the video game industry together. And Jamie is an amazing artist, and I pretty much like my writing. And I thought it was a good combination. So it's a great story. It's just a 9-page short. This is a bunch of short stories, and ours is the last one. And again, thanks Jamie for working on that with me. That was great. Now, I didn't get paid for that. I didn't pay to do that. That was like a mutual thing. We decided to get together to do a short story, and we heard about Toronto Comics through word of mouth. So, and they were just taking applications. You could just sit in and then propose stories, and if they liked your stories, they being like the group, it's not like a corporation or anything. You just sit down with a bunch of people, and one or two guys are running the show, and they're like, okay, we're going to use your story, and they're acting as producers, and they make sure everything gets done, and they handle the printing, etc., and then they sell it and they make the money. So we get nothing from that. But that 9-page short was my own experience, and I was very excited to get that done. So I have a few of these that I give to people and nobody reads. But that's okay. But that's because in my circles, I actually don't have a lot of comic book people. I'm like the only comic book guy. So, or in my tight circles. But regardless, let's talk about where I came from. I started reading comics when I was 15. And back then, I did write stories and I drew pictures all the time. And I thought I was going to get into comics as an artist. But when I drew my pictures and I scanned them, and because before the internet, and I sent them, mailed them, old school, to Marvel and DC and whoever, I don't even think Image existed then, I never got a response, I don't believe. And if I did, there would probably have been, we have thrown your work in the trash. Because it wasn't good enough. I was like 16 years old. I wasn't up to snuff. So that's okay. That is okay. I thought maybe I'll get better and then I'll get into comics as an artist. I never thought I could do it as a writer. Not that I thought I couldn't do it, I just didn't think that was an avenue that you could do. And I'm also going to do a video about that because I've had a lot of interesting chats with writers and their opinions, and gotta say they're not very they're not very they weren't necessarily supportive, promising comments from most, but I did find some diamonds in the rough that were very supportive people, but we'll talk about that in another video. Anyways, so years down the road, I kind of stopped working on comics, or the dream for comics, gave it up for a while. It was always kind of in the back of my head. So then down the road, I don't know, a long time, I was talking like 10 years, maybe more, I wrote a script for a story called So-Called Living. Now, So-Called Living is a comic book story. It's all my own. What the story is about, we'll talk about in another video. But anyways, I wrote this script and I was like, this is great. Now what I need is an artist. I just want to focus on the story and I'll get somebody else to focus on the art. Now I work in the video game industry. There's tons of talented artists everywhere. So I'll work with one of them. So my first approach, my initial approach was, hey, artist friend, do you want to do a comic book with me? We'll partner up. And here was my proposal. And now I've done this with a few artists and never really took off. We'll explain why that is, and it makes sense. So I work with a lot of artists, and they're all professional artists, as in they do professional art for video games all day. So I'm asking them, in your spare time, do you want to work on a comic book with me? I have this script, and I'd like to work with you on it, and we'll put together a comic. And if it makes any money, we'll split it 50-50. And I was like, and here's the deal. I'll pay to get it printed. I'll pay for any of that stuff as the writer, because I really want to get this project done. And we'll put this book out. And this is before I knew about Kickstarter or anything. I don't think Kickstarter existed. So I was like, I'll pay for the printing, get the book out, try to promote it. And any money that we get at first will be to cover my initial costs. So whatever cost me to print it. Now, after that, I'll tell them the first blah amount of money, $5,000, whatever, if it makes that much, will go to you. You get the first $5,000. After we start making money, you get the first $5,000. And then after that, we start splitting everything. I can't remember what the number was, 5,000, 10,000. Again, pipe dreams, it never happened. Don't even know if if the book could have even made that much money. But regardless. So that was my deal. And the artists were on board for a little while. And as it started, they realized that it's a lot of work. Don't fool yourself, creating a comic book is a lot of work. And for people to do it on their own without any guaranteed pay is hard to sell. Now, I'm going to be straightforward that it's easier to sell it to people that aren't as strong as artists. So but I am very particular over the art I use. And there's this thing, if you want to use art that you're not too fond of, because there's artists everywhere, and there's art, there's good art, there's bad art, there's art you're gonna like, there's art you're just not gonna like, regardless if it's somebody else thinks it's good or not. But a less experienced artist might do it for free. But then I gotta ask myself, do I want a less experienced artist who might do it for free or do it for really cheap, or who I think might stick with the project, but do I want my project as a writer, do I want it to be presented with low quality art? I don't. I absolutely do not. I'd rather just bury the project, which I did, because no matter how many artists I worked with, at some point they reach that point in their life where they're like, this is a lot of work. I work all day, and then I come home and I got to work all night on this, and it's a lot of work. So they dropped out, and I was like, no hard feelings. I completely understand. So I put it away, because if I couldn't get what I wanted at the quality I wanted, I did not want to do it, hands down. So, but I kept working on the scripts. Then I put it away, put it to bed. And then 15 years later, brings us to about now, I brought it back out again. and I'm in a better position. I'm a little more financially stable. So I thought, you know what? I am going to pay an artist to do my project. And that started another part of my story. And how you find an artist and how you go about doing this and how that went, I'll explain that in another video. But what I'm here to tell you is that I've got my project started. I actually have issues 1 and 2. Well, 1's done. You can read 1 right now for free on Global Comics and Comic Book Drive-Thru. And I'll put the links in the description below. But you can go check out So-Called Living issue 1 now, because I'm giving it away free and it's completed. And the idea is I'm going to run a Kickstarter. So in these videos, I'm going to tell you how I wrote my script, how I found an artist to work on my script, because that's tricky. It's tricky to find an artist. And then how I decided to go to Kickstarter, and then what my process of getting a Kickstarter campaign done to fund my comic book, how that looks like, what I did to promote my comic, the steps I take to write and improve my comic, and all that, and things that I don't even know yet to make videos for, because like I said, I'm going through the process now. And because of that, I don't actually know what rate I'll be releasing these videos, but I want to help you. If you're a writer like me, I want to help you because I couldn't find the resources that I needed, and I'm hoping I can be a resource because I'm not a professional telling you this. All I can do for you is tell you my journey, and hopefully you can learn from my successes as much as my failures, and then that'll help you along your journey. And I'm going to be as straightforward and as open as I can. And the reason I'm not doing this in one just long video would be too long. And that way you can pinpoint the content that you want to watch, if you want to watch any of it. Because to be honest, I might fall on my face. I'm confident that the first Kickstarter is going to happen. Will it fund? I don't know. That's part of the process I'm going through now. And if you have any questions about my process, just either put them in the comments or DM me, and I'll answer what I can. And to let you know, I know I'm umming a lot here. It's because, like I said, I'm going kind of off the cuff. So-Called Living, if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description below. My first comic book. The Kickstarter will be for issues 1 and 2. I hope you like it. Check it out. And maybe it'll help validate anything I have to say in these videos. Because if you read So-Called Living, you think it's great, you'll be like, wow, I should listen to this guy. If you think it's not great, opposite of great, you might be like, this guy's full of it. Maybe I am. But either way, I'm here to help. And I'll see you in the next video. And really, writers, keep writing. You can get there. I just don't know how yet. But we can learn together.